That's a Ferrari F8, and we're going to speak to the guy that owns it. Wow, that just never gets old. So Mike, thank you so very much for joining us on this balmy English winter's morning.
A bit nippy.
Yeah, it's not too warm. So yeah, obviously we're here with your F8 that we've done an exhaust to, and we'll get to that in a minute. But you know, why don't you tell us a little bit about your kind of journey of car ownership up to the F8? Because you've had quite a few interesting things. So yeah, what was the journey?
Yeah, so I've always been into cars. When I was younger, had some nice cars, Porsche, TVR. Never quite made it to Ferrari or Lamborghini levels, but then through financial difficulties I had to take a back seat from that for quite a while.
Sure.
Then I started watching YouTube, and I could see, you know, I was getting curious about cars and see all these young lads buying supercars, and I thought, well, surely I'm in a position to buy one myself.
Yeah.
Looked at Aston Martin, thought I can wait till I'm a bit older for that.
Yes.
McLaren, I was tempted with McLaren and Ferrari, but in the end I went with a 488.
Nice.
Coupe. Did modify a little bit, black roof, black wheels, so it had a nice two-tone look to it. It was a great car, had that for about a year. I then sold that and very promptly bought a 650 S Spider from McLaren.
Cool.
That was a nice car, a little softer on the noise levels. And then they announced the 600 LT at Goodwood that year.
Sure.
And I put my name in for one of those because I thought that would be the one to have, might appreciate. And then during that time, the 600 LT arrived, the 650 went, and then I got a Lamborghini Performante, white with the bronze wheels, which was a nice car as well.
And so you had the 600 and the Perf in the stable at the same time?
I did, yeah, both in the garage. Wife wasn't happy about it, but I could, it depended what day I wanted to go. To be fair, I would, normally if I'm out for a good drive, I'd take the McLaren. If I'm going out for a bit of a show off around town, I'd take the Lamborghini.
Nice, yeah, you can't beat that V10.
Yeah.
And then so how did you end up with the F8?
Well, I missed the Spider from the 650.
Fine.
So I decided I was going to look at Ferrari again. Started looking at 488 Spider, 458 Spider, and obviously the F8 had kind of just recently come out. Wasn't overly impressed with the 458 Spider. I know everyone raves about the engine noise and the sound. Against the 488, I was quite happy with the 488.
Fine. Well, in terms of the dynamics of how the car actually drove?
Yeah. I mean, you could feel it was a little loose on the front end at speed. Obviously, that's why they brought in the S-duct.
Yes.
But I test drove back-to-back the F8 and the 488. I preferred the sound of the 488, but I liked the slight modern tweaks of the F8.
Sure, fine. And so you mentioned a couple of mods, kind of mainly aesthetic to the 488, but I'm correct in saying that this is the first one that you've kind of extensively modified with an exhaust of this nature.
Yeah, on hearing the F8 when I did take it out for a test drive, I was quite disappointed with the noise.
Okay, you're not the first to say that.
I only bought it on the condition I could put an exhaust system on.
Fine.
Luckily, you guys supplied me with, and I took the delivery of the car with the exhaust already fitted. Yeah,
that was a really cool thing actually. So you kind of agreed the sale with the dealer, and then the car ended up at our workshop. We sent the exhaust down there, had it all fitted up, and then you took delivery of the car in this state.
Yep.
And so you're kind of the prime customer of ours, right? You know, you've had a 488, maybe a couple of McLarens or whatever, but this is maybe the first one that you've got in, and the sound is just not acceptable, really. And it's obviously the gasoline particulate filter, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting. So I mean, obviously I can't ask you to kind of A/B what the car was like before and after, because obviously you took delivery of it as it is now. But in terms of how the car, you know, sounds with this exhaust versus the stock 488, kind of what are your thoughts on how that compares?
A completely different car. I mean,
really,
like I did a Ferrari event with an F8, I'd turned up at the event in a Lamborghini Performante.
Right, which is going to blow it out of the water.
I drove an F8 on the road, and I was just like, really?
Yeah.
I wasn't impressed. Dynamics as well, you know, with Lamborghinis and McLarens, the way the car drives wasn't going to blow me away.
Yes.
And I missed the sound. I missed going 30 miles an hour and having a smile on my face.
Yes.
I don't want to just cruise along quietly. So I had driven an F8 a few times and had really sort of just sidelined it and wasn't going to go with it until I knew I could get an exhaust system.
Fine, yeah. I mean, it really does completely change the character of the car. And it's, you know, you kind of touched on something quite interesting there about the kind of speed, right? You know, with these cars, but I mean, it's difficult to make it sound good at any speed standard. But with something like a 458 or an F12 or even a 488, you need to be going kind of prison speeds really to get a good sound out of the car. And I mean, looking around today, it's greasy as all hell, and it is really cold. And so it's kind of a perfect demonstration of, you know, with an exhaust of this nature, you don't have to be going 10 tenths to really enjoy how it sounds.
No, that's the most thing. I want to have a smile on my face and enjoy the car at any speed,
exactly,
in anything.
Exactly.
And the 488 used to do that. The McLarens do not. The McLarens only come to life 10 tenths.
Yeah.
The 600 LT was better, but you would over excessively use your downshift.
Yeah.
To get the pops and the bangs.
The cracks, yeah, exactly.
And obviously getting the flames out the back exhaust was always really cool.
Yeah, that view out of the rear mirror is pretty sweet.
it was good. The Lamborghini, no problem whatsoever. No matter what speed you're doing, you take your foot off the accelerator.
That V10 is just a masterpiece, really, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, I have to say, sort of a really great moment. We met Mike in Lyndhurst, just by Meridian Modena, the Ferrari dealer, and me and James were in James's car pulling out, and Mike pulled out behind us, and we heard this almighty bang, and that was just the car on the overrun, kind of coming off the gas at 3 miles an hour. It just sounds so good. Yeah. And so I think we should probably hop in and go for a drive now and to talk more about the exhaust and have a listen to it.
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Oh, they're just such cool cars. Are you a bumpy road mode at all times kind of guy?
No. No, not often.
No.
I'll probably might brave the sport mode.
Well, yeah, I was
today.
That's always a question that I like to ask, is what you normally go. Fine, so you're normally in race?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Because one of the things I used to find, and it used to bug me with the 488, is if you wanted to get a bit of noise, and you're, say, going through town, 30 mile an hour, you'd put it in race mode, so the valves open at 2,000 RPM. So at 30 mile an hour, you're right on the cusp.
And it just flutters?
Yeah. It's like its voice is trying to break all the time.
I mean, even with the valves open, it's still so sort of reasonable. Like, and that's the worry, right? So on this one, we've done the valve back box with cap replacement pipes, and then you've got the remote and then the Tectronic. And a lot of people are really worried when they get the cats out that it's going to be like deafening and really drony. But how have you found it on motorways?
Oh, it's fine. And then if you just close her up. It's.
I mean, I can't hear it. Yeah. It's so quiet. It really, really is the best of both worlds. And then when it's open, you can just absolutely wake the bloody dead. God, it sounds good. And when you compare this to the standard F8, I mean, it is just, horse?
Oh yeah, you couldn't hear anything on the standard F8, only when you start it. Cold start, you go, oh, that sounds all right.
Yeah, because then you've got kind of full beats, valves open.
Yeah.
It's just got so much gear. And it's the best of both worlds, right? It's like all of the turbo spooling and blow-off valve of the 488, but then you've got the really high-pitched flat plane crank from the kind of 458.
So you can get it to scream.
I can't believe what a different car this feels like compared to a standard one.
Yeah. you'd lose all that noise and drama. I mean, the 600 LT, I was asking them if they could just pull my rear window out because I didn't have the spider.
Yeah.
I was like, can I just remove the window? I'll just go out on dry days.
And you get to go and do this whenever you want. I'm so jealous.
So you don't have to be going flat out to enjoy the noise. If you just want to go and play with the gear shifts, I mean, 40, 50 mile an hour is fine.
You just hit the nail on the head, and I was just thinking that because we've just pulled up behind this car, and it still sounds amazing. When I've had cars before that didn't have an exhaust of this caliber, you'd be sort of quite frustrated being here. You wouldn't be able to get the sound, but
because if you turn it off and go up all the gears.
I mean, this is school run level. You know, you could live in this thing forever. Ferrari's come on such a long way. If you get in something like a 355 and you compare that now, I mean, that wasn't even all that long ago. And it's just a completely different caliber of machine. And then didn't you say one of your pals has also got an F8 and he heard yours and he was sort of thinking about dabbling into an exhaust?
Yes, yeah, so he was, so he's used to the quiet F8. Just bark sometimes if the valve should open. But yeah, he was impressed with it. And even some people will pick up that it's been lowered if you go into a supercar driver event. Sure. They will look at this and they sometimes come and ask, why does yours look different? And really, it's got spacers on the wheels and the Novitec lowering kit. Yeah. And also, we installed that at the same time, did we not? Yeah, full exhaust system. And I'm trying to remember how much we lowered by. I think it was about 15 mil. And I mean, fine, we bottomed out once here, but I mean, this is a particularly bad set of roads. Yeah. And that's another thing. So I mean, the ride quality from the springs themselves hasn't really affected the ride quality, if that makes sense. No, if anything, for the better for me, because I come from more track-focused cars like the Performante and the 600 LT. So they can kind of feel a bit wallowy. Yes. When they're in their standard form. So I couldn't tell you whether it is stiffer with the new springs, but it's definitely not uncomfortable. I mean, that's the thing, right? You know, my bum dyno's average at best, and I wouldn't have got in this and thought anything other than it's a sports car, right? You know, it's got 700 odd brake. It needs to be pretty stable to keep you in a straight line. But I'm not, you know, I've got enough fillings that at least one of them would have come out if the ride was particularly bad. Yeah, my 350Z drift car. Now that one will rattle your teeth out. I can believe that. I can believe that. Yeah, dynamically, it's such a great platform, and not having the sound to back that up is a bit weird to have a car that's so brutally fast. Yeah, but it doesn't have much sound to give back to you. Exactly, you'll end up in the 720 area where you floor it and you just don't even realise you're going that quick. Precisely. Sound has always been such an important way of interacting with a car in terms of knowing what it's doing, and I think losing that, I mean, don't get me wrong, getting in something like a Tesla Plaid, it's mind-boggling how fast it is, but it's not the same. And you know, people talk about drama a lot, but you know, it's really important. And that's why people go and buy exhausts like this, is to add the intensification and to give you that feedback. It's like being back in an F40. Honestly, it's like being back in an F40. Yeah, with a lot more power. Yes. Wow. It just doesn't stop. No, it just you keep going that. Jeepers. Wow. Wow. You find yourself with oncoming cars on purposely just coming off just so you can get a bit of a pop on it.
You didn't like that? And so the other thing worth mentioning is you are in the process of selling the car now, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody wants to see it, where can they see it?
On Auto Trader.
So it's an Auto Trader. Fine. So yeah, if you want this car with this exhaust,
Yep.
go on Auto Trader.
Yep, because if it's sold through Ferrari, they have to have it back to factory.
Yeah, they have to have it back to standard. And this is another thing, when we install the exhaust, we're always really insistent that the original parts stay with the car, for that exact reason, because some people do want to sell through the main dealer network, which is fine, but it needs to be standard. So it's really important to keep the parts together. But yeah, I mean, what a thing. I think what we'll now do is we'll probably just cut to a compilation of you doing some flybys and that kind of stuff. I cannot believe what a difference it's made. And yeah, I think this is easily the nicest F8 I've sat in and listened to. It's made all the difference. So yeah, congratulations, you're a lucky man.
Yeah.